Hey friends, this is Jonathan Rios. I'm a licensed therapist in Palm Beach County, previous foster parent at Place of Hope. I think we had roughly 12 to 13 guys over a period of time, and was in Cottage 6, so I know that territory well. I have 4 daughters myself. My wife Kyla and I have 4 daughters, and I'll be talking to you today about connecting with that type of child, the children that come into Place of Hope are neglected, abused, abandoned, and I want to talk to you specifically about attachment disorders and how you can go about dealing with their dysfunctional behaviors and their outlook on life and in a more successful manner. That's the idea. I want to give you some practical stuff that you can use and lessons I've learned along the way as well. So I want to start with a quick story. I was at this playground the other day, and my buddy has 2 little kids. I've got 4. They're all playing in the playground, and his 2-year-old would like run away and then run back like 30 seconds later, grab his legs and like, "Daddy, Daddy." And she'd stay there for about 20 seconds, then she'd run away for 30 seconds, go down the slide or climb something, run back and come back to Daddy because Daddy was safe, right? Daddy was like the safe zone, and the playground was like the scary world. And I just said to him, I was like, man, imagine you're a kid and you run out into the scary world and you turn around and there's no one there who's safe for you. Like you got nowhere to run to that's safe and secure. And that's a lot of the kids that come to Place of Hope. Like they learned through neglect and abuse and abandonment. Like I'm not valuable. I've got to figure this out on my own. Like the world is a scary place. They learned through their caregivers that caregivers aren't dependable. Um, they're not safe, right? And so here you are, you're stepping in to try to go, hey, I want to help you move along in this world and help be a tool or an instrument for healing. And these kids are all kinds of aggressive, all kinds of dysfunctional, all kinds of resentful, all kinds of hurt, right? And so it can be really confusing and exhausting to deal with this type of child. Um, Again, when caregivers aren't available for us, when they don't provide or shelter our food and love and concern, we learned that they're not dependable, they're not safe, they're not going to be here for me when I need it, and I got to do it on my own. Now, a child doesn't and typically won't articulate that. That's just kind of a felt sense in the body. So here you are, you step in, and to them, you're like an adult. Similar to the authority figures that they've been around at other foster homes or in their biological parents' house. To them, the lens that they see the world, you're the same thing. So example of this is I had a guy in Cottage 6. He was about 17. His mom used to burn cigarettes out on him and throw acid on his skin. And and then I would come in and be like, hey, bro, here's the deal. I'd love to take you to the football game tomorrow night, but this room's got to be clean, man. It's got to be clean before I could, let's meet me halfway. He'd go, all right, I'll clean it. The next day I'd go to check his room and it's not clean. And then I'd walk in the room like an hour and a half before the football game. I go, hey, man, like the deal was you have to clean your room so I can drive you to school. Like it's not clean. And he'd blow up and just like ready for a full-on physical altercation and spitting and yelling and screaming and breaking things. And it has nothing to do with me. It's called projection. He sees me like the authority figures that he had. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to suffocate you. I'm here to help you, right? But getting him to change the lens was a process of consistency and love and assertiveness, and we'll talk about all that stuff. But so I want to give you some tips on the 4 attachment styles that'll help you understand where these kids are coming from. Because when we understand where they're coming from, it gives us a different heart. It gives us a different lens by which we might approach them, right? So the attachment styles, again, are templates that we develop over time in childhood that cross over into adulthood and our social interactions. So one of the first attachments is called anxiety or anxious preoccupied attachment style. And you'll as I say this, you'll see this in some of the kids. So needy, clingy, fixated on pleasing others, a strong fear of abandonment. And in adulthood, people that lean into this attachment style might often fear that their partners don't truly love them. There's a real fear of loss of connection. So they're very anxious. They want to cling. They want to keep you close because they're afraid of abandonment and loss of connection. They might be jealous, and they tend to be doormats in the future as adults because their main objective is to please other people so those other people don't abandon them and leave them. Next attachment style is something called dismissive or avoidant. And highlight that word dismissive. So dismissive meaning they learned early on the caregiver is unreliable and unsafe. So now they're uncomfortable with connection because they learned, hey, people aren't dependable, especially authority figures. They tend to be independent. Like, all right, you know what? I don't need relationships. I've had to figure it out my whole life, so I'll figure it out now, right? They might lack depth in relationships because they consistently escape situations where people are expressing strong emotions. They're not comfortable with emotions. They're not comfortable with connection. They don't rely on other people. They lack depth in relationship. And you might even, at an extreme level, this might move into narcissism. They're going to have really low empathy for other people. They're going to reject intimacy. So they're very dismissive of connection and intimacy, right? Because they learned it's scary, right? Next one, fearful avoidant. This is kind of a weird mixture between the anxious and the dismissive. It's like this weird tug of war. It's erratic, right? So they're unpredictable. They have strong social anxieties. You'll notice that. These types of children tend to be fairly explosive. They're unpredictable. They have really hard time managing their emotions. It's like, I want love. I don't want love. I want connection. I don't want connection. Right? Fundamentally, they don't feel loved. They don't feel secure. They feel fractured. And so they tend to harbor a lot of frustration or rage. This is a lot of kids. This is a lot of adults, guys. So, and humans aren't a formula. These are just kind of trends that you might see. And then there's the secure type. This is the last one. The secure type, they feel loved. They learned, man, like my caregivers are there for me when I needed them. They felt secure. They felt provided for. They learned caregivers and people can be trusted, right? They aren't, here's the thing. These types, the secure types, aren't afraid of being alone. They can be in relationship, but they can also be out of relationship. They're not that anxious type that needs to be clingy, right? So those are the attachment styles, right? Now, what you guys see at Place of Hope it's pretty intense. You see a lot of what we call reactive attachment disorder. Gina knows a lot about this one. She's been there. Hi, Gina. She's been there a long time, so she can break this open for you guys if you want to go into detail. But reactive attachment disorder is is when you see a child who's got a consistent pattern of inhibited behaviors and emotionally withdrawn behaviors towards adults or peers. So they withdraw, right? And they don't seek comfort when they're hurt or distressed. They don't want it. They don't want help. They don't want to give you eye contact when they fall over and are bleeding. They're like, no, like I got this. So it's this weird push away, right? They rarely respond to comfort in distress. It's like, think about a normal child who's running down the sidewalk and falls and scrapes their knees. What do? They look directly at their caregiver and want to be held or want to be paid attention to. The kid with reactive attachment disorder is like not looking at you for assistance. They're like, no, like I'm all alone in this world, right? How sad is that, right? This is super sad. So they might not cry. They might have a blunted affect, so like situations where that you might normally cry, they're not going to cry. They're going to have oftentimes really poor eye contact. They're going to have moments of unexplained irritability and sadness, and it doesn't fit the context of the moment. It's like out of nowhere. It's like, what the heck happened, right? And it's usually present before the age of 5. Right? Again, these are like the developed in childhood. Man, I mean, it's like attachment is such a big deal at a young age, right? And it's the template that affects all of our future relationships. So, all right, now I want to get specific with the Place of Hope kids, and for any other viewers who are dealing with difficult children. One of the goals, I want you guys to hear me loud and clear. The goal in relationship with children is heart connection. And imagine you've got a tank. It's like a tank it's an invisible tank inside their chest. And your goal is to drop buckets of love and trust into that tank, and to have the tank full so they feel loved. That's the idea. It's all about heart connection. And so, hear me on this. With the Place of Hope kids, they're going to be very argumentative and resistant at times. You can win a debate with them and an argument with them and still lose their heart. Just like you can do that with your spouse. You can beat your spouse in a debate. You can beat your employees in a debate, but lose their trust and lose their heart, right? Because it's not about winning a debate. It's about heart connection. So I want you to hear that. What we see in Place of Hope a lot is a power struggle where it's like these kids are coming out of chaos, guys. They don't have it. They've never had any control in their lives. So oftentimes power struggles, it's like this. It's like this. I'm going to show my house parent. I'm going to show the staff like that I still have some control. And so no, I'm not doing that. And what you said you want me to do A, I'm doing B. Right? And we're like, it's frustrating because like, dude, why don't you just do this simple thing that I'm asking you to do? Well, it's a power. It's like they're trying to hold on, cling on to any little bit of control and power they've got. And remember, our goal is to drop into the trust bucket, like love and connection. Like I care for you. It's not about winning a debate. It's about connecting with you. So our goal is to get them to see us as a trustworthy person. We can't control their perceptions. We can only become trustworthy people. Right? That's key. You can't make other people trust you, but you can become a trustworthy person. Okay? So think about it like this. Like, so you're a kid who's been neglected, abandoned, abused. Imagine your kid who had to stay in his dirty diaper and urine and get just a nasty rash, right? Well, eventually, if you go enough time with a nasty diaper, you learn to tune out that pain because it's so overwhelming. The body does something called dissociation, and you no longer feel the pain, right? You go to this other place, you no longer feel it. You get dull to pain, you get dull to your own senses, and then you also, in the long run, get dull to other people's pain and other people's senses. So you no longer have empathy. So a lot of these kids don't have empathy for you or for the other kids in the house. You're like, what's wrong with you? Well, they went through hell, right? They have sharp edges, like. Because they lack empathy, they lack awareness of how their behaviors and words affect other people. They don't realize they have spikes on them and that they spike other people. Well, they lack awareness. They're injured. They're hurt, right? And listen, guys, this applies to you and to me and to everybody on planet Earth. Pain that we don't get healing from will transmit to other people. Just the way it works. So imagine you're a kid who got cigarettes burned on them and punched and starved. Like I used to have kids who their parents would starve them, or their foster parents would starve them. It's like that's so painful and so overwhelming. They have to go somewhere else, like mentally, emotionally, psychologically, and they have a great capacity for pain, right? And so it does a real number on their psychology, right? Their emotional world. So I want to share this story. So the other day, just to put things in context, actually, I'll share a story from Place of Hope. I had this kid. He had encopresis, so he would crap the bed at night, crap himself. And he had a lot of trauma in his childhood. And the thing is, he'd hide his nasty, like, Depends and underwear under his bed, or shove them into his drawers to hide them because he's ashamed, right? He's 15 years old. So I'd smell it. I'd have to like, hey man, like, where is it? Let's go get it. And it was like really hard because I'm frustrated because I'm helping to clean up after this 15-year-old kid. But I remember thinking, okay, you can't shame this kid because it's all about trust, man. Like this kid, getting this kid to trust you. So I'm helping him find it. We're doing it when other kids are in the house. We take it, we throw whatever needs to be thrown away, or we wash and bleach whatever needs to be washed and bleached. But the idea was, don't shame this kid and be with him in that nasty situation. Let him know, hey, I'm here for you. I'm not judging you. Let's do this together, right? That went on for a while, guys. It wasn't easy. If you can ask Gene about that, but ultimately he did trust me. I did win him over. It took some time. Another kid, you're going to see this with some of the teenagers. They're going to have strong body. I remember one of these kids had strong body odor, and I wouldn't shame him in public. I'd pull him aside in private and like, hey man, like, so dude, I don't know about you, but when I work out and I don't use deodorant, it gets pretty raw. I notice like you're starting to kick like I do after a workout. I'm gonna highly recommend when you shower, use this washcloth and here's some new deodorant. Check it out. Like, trust me, don't be like me. You know, like kind of like using humor and self-disclosure can be really helpful. I would highly recommend humor and self-disclosure when connecting with these kids. And then apologizing when your tone is off. Like, we're going to get hot. We're going to screw up. And circling back and going, hey, man, like yesterday when we had that convo, we got heated. I wanted to say, I'm sorry. I want to own my side of the street. Like, I got a little aggressive and I said some hurtful things, man. And that's not true, what I said. And I'm really sorry, man. Will you forgive me? That's hard. Can you do that with your spouse? That's a whole nother video. All right, I'm going to rush through this, guys. I'm trying to talk quickly. I don't want to bore you. Okay, so when I say power struggle, when I say trust bucket, remember, it's not about winning arguments. It's not about forcing new behaviors. It's about trust. Because if they trust you, if they feel loved, their behavior will change. And if they feel loved, they'll be more open to training and to discipline. Kids that don't feel loved and don't trust you aren't going to listen to a thing you say, right? So what we need to do is get in touch with their love languages. And you guys are probably familiar with the 5 love languages, but I want to give you some tips for how to connect with your kids. So remember, kids aren't a formula, and we tend to think people are like us. So if I'm a physical touch person, I tend to think other people are like physical touch people. That's not how this world works. So the first love language that I want you to look out for is physical touch. So with these kids, they've been physically abused, a lot of them. So we got to be careful with physical touch. But things like hugs, side hugs, high fives, fist bumps. I had teenagers, so I would teach them to box and to wrestle, and it was like that was physical contact, but it was in a controlled setting, right? Reading books in close proximity on the couch with these kids, right? Where they're not being touched sexually. It's just like physical proximity, neutral, like it's like you're grazing of the shoulders, that type of thing. Be intentional with that stuff. Non-sexual touch that's loving and caring really informs their social skills. I was thinking about this. One of my daughters, we finally figured out that she's a high physical touch kid, and she'd start to act out and be like irritable, just defiant. And I'd have to just pull her aside and pull her on my lap and hold her there for like 2-3 minutes, and she'd squirm and want to get out. But I'd just be like, no, you got to stay with me so you can calm yourself down. And it's like you could just see her nervous system and her anxiety would just start to go down because she's like, all right, I'm like, this is what I wanted. It's like physical contact. But she didn't know she wanted that, right? We kind of spotted it in her. So next one, words. You know what? I love you. Hey, great job on that project. You nailed it. Might give them a special nickname. You might encourage them publicly, compliment them publicly at the dinner table. It's like, hey, you know what? You nailed it when you did that deep clean chore today. You crushed it. Hey, great job on at the soccer game today. I saw how hard you worked. Like you were really putting yourself out there. And publicly, that's really important. And with words, with kids that are strong in words, we have to be careful with our verbal critique. If you're going to criticize, it has to be in private, and you've got to do it with truth, and you've got to do it with love and grace and tact, right? So you might need to rehearse that a few times before you address that issue. Don't critique them publicly. That's going to backfire on you. Quality time. Focused, undivided eye contact with these kids. Doing yard work together. Doing a chore together. Grocery shopping together. Doing laundry together. Shooting basketball hoops together. Going to the gym together, right? Beaching it up together. Sitting and watching a movie as a collective together. These are sharing thoughts and feelings, right? That's quality time. Okay, you have to be present, not on your phone, checking Facebook, but present. Okay, self-disclosure is another big one with quality time. Telling them about yourself. Next one, acts of service. Doing homework with them, running errands for them, helping them prep for a test, helping them fix their bicycle chain. Running errands with them or for them. Now, surprising them with random help. Now, the thing is, teenagers and kids, they're not going to notice this stuff all the time. Like if you're waiting for like a thank you from them, it's like these are busted kids. So like you got to, you're not, you're probably not going to get the, hey, thank you, Mr. Johnny. I appreciate your errands, right? No, you're not going to get that. Remember, we're dropping love into the, we're depositing into the love bucket, the trust bucket. That's the goal. They may not register, but they're going to feel, hey, this person feels safer than those other people. This person feels secure. Next one, gifts. This might be, and I score really low on this, so I'm not the expert on this, but wrapping little gifts, like wrapping gifts for them specifically, personalizing these gifts for these kids. Like a lot of donations that come in at Christmas time, they're not personalized. You might have to rummage through the gifts and figure out what would personally make sense to that child. You can't be general with it. You gotta be specific. So you gotta mess with this. It's kind of an experiment. Try hammering all 5 of these with each kid. You might want to spend 1 week hammering one love language with this kid. Like it might be just this week I'm going to focus on words. This week I'm going to focus on quality time until you start to notice that they respond. Some telltale signs that you've hit it right is they might say, hey, can we read together? Can we play? Let's go play basketball hoops. And you go, oh, I think this kid might be quality time, right? Or they might say something like, you never say anything nice to me. That might be a sign that they're a words kid, and you got to be really careful with your words with them. Okay. Last tip, guys. When dealing with these kids, it's all about maintaining a sense of calm, right? Like specifically with your tone. So human language breaks down into physiology, tone, and words. 55% physiology is what you do with your body. Tone is obvious, and then words. So if I say to you, I told you I loved you. I told you that, right? Now you're saying I love you, but your tone is saying I don't love you, and your aggressive body language is saying I don't love you, right? We need to be in congruence when we communicate with these kids. We need to be clear when we give instructions. There can't be any ambiguity. Okay, and then lastly, we need to be assertive about what we're wanting and what we're needing. And I'll leave you with this proverb: a gentle word breaks a bone, right? Rather than getting into a power struggle, remember, like tone and a gentle word can break a bone. Okay, now guys, this was quick and dirty. I wish I could be around for Q&A, but bless you guys. If you have questions, email me at hello@thrive.co. Thrive is spelled THRIIV.co. You guys have a great day.